my entire family, I reluctantly accept this great honor. I'll come back to reluctantly in a moment, but by show of hands, how many people have seen the movie Remember the Titans? If you have, you may remember the little blonde girl in the stands cheering on the Titans and her dad, the coach. I was that little girl, the coach's daughter. My dad and Gales football has had a big impact on my life. At 12 months old, I loudly clapped after the organ played a hymn during my christening, which I was told disrupted the sanctity of the entire ceremony. Embarrassed, my mom explained to her friends that I didn't really know the difference between the Roxbury band and the organist. When I saw my first play at 4, I cried during intermission until my mom told me it was halftime. That concept I was much more familiar with at the time. And when I was 7, I remember the all-important conversation with my dad when I asked, "What exactly is a gale?" One of my favorite writers, Norman MacLean, said, "It is those we live with and love and should know who elude us." When I learned that my father would be inducted in the Roxbury Athletic Hall of Fame, I couldn't have been more proud. But I also realized I knew very little about his days as a player. Never one to live in the glory days of the past, my dad never mentioned his accomplishments. I think I even remember my brother and me kicking around his 1,000-point basketball in the yard until my mom came out and said, "I'm not so sure this is a good idea." When I read the newspaper clippings which detailed some of his accomplishments, I said, "Who is this man?" So I went on a quest to find the Roxbury star athlete who had eluded me and better understand this foundational part of his early life, which helped him to become the man that he is today and the dad and the grandfather that Michael and his son Mike and me know and love. I made some phone calls. First, I called Gary Irwin, who helped to make this special night happen, to tell him that Michael and I would come and speak on behalf of my parents, who unfortunately couldn't be here because they're down in Florida right now. He said he had to rewrite my dad's bio because he didn't highlight enough of his achievements. He said, "That's your dad, incredibly talented and way too modest." Next, I called my Aunt Judy, my dad's middle sister, renowned for her memory. "Aunt Judy," I said, "tell me a little bit about my dad when he was in high school. How much did sports mean to him?" "Sports was everything to Bobby," she said. "When our father died, your dad was only 6 years old. He was raised by 3 women, your Nana, your Aunt Joan, and me. We lived in Kenville, which was a working-class town. At that time, no one from Kenville had broken into Roxbury athletics. I was beginning to learn where my dad, Bobby, got his toughness." She remembered the family going to see their first football game. My dad was 10, and Roxbury was playing Dover. There were thousands of people in the stands. Roxbury won 14-12, and my dad's life was changed forever. He fell in love with football that day, and for the next 8 years committed himself to being the best Roxbury athlete he could be. Playing quarterback for Roxbury that day was Bill Tardivi. His family would take my dad under their wing, and Bill, known to me as Uncle Billy, would become a lifelong friend. My next call was to Frank Darling, one of my dad's teammates, a quiet, soft-spoken man who played receiver. "Bobby Morgan was some player, boy," Frank told me. "He was a natural. He did it all, Cindy, and he was a guy with a lot of achievements." Frank and my dad were close throughout high school. He remembers their pregame ritual of eating tuna fish sandwiches at my Nana's house. He also remembers a line from a newspaper story about a team that ended up serving as their tagline. "Bobby Morgan always threaded the needle, and that needle was Frank Darling." One rainy Saturday afternoon, Aunt Judy remembers the local newspaper calling the house to get her mom's reaction to my dad's having broken the Morris County record for throwing the javelin. She was baffled. When my dad got home, she said, "Where were you after school? Did you throw the javelin at a track meet?" He sheepishly responded, "Yeah, I did. Baseball got rained out, so they asked me to come to the track meet. How did you even find out? I really didn't want anyone to know." When my dad had 30 points to go to break the 1,000-point mark in basketball, he had been on a hot streak. So Nana, Aunt Joan, and Aunt Judy all went to the game hoping that would be the night that he would break the record. Unbeknownst to my Nana, the cheerleaders had bought our corsage and were ready with a special ceremony once the record had been broken. He only scored 28 points that night, and they had to pop the flowers in the refrigerator until the next game, 2 nights later, when he did accomplish the goal. I asked my Aunt Judy if she remembers my dad being frustrated or mad that he just was 2 points shy. She said, "No way, he just felt badly about the flowers." Aunt Judy described her brother as humble and self-motivated. He hung a tire in the backyard and tossed footballs and baseballs through it every night after practice. He always gave credit where credit was due. He didn't love the spotlight. He preferred no fuss. Bobby was sensitive and had a big heart, but he didn't easily show it to the world, she told me. Instead, they saw his toughness. I spoke with my dad a few weeks ago. I reassured him that he really did deserve this recognition, and I asked him what he wanted me to say on his behalf. He said, "Be sure to thank the committee. Tell them that I appreciate this special honor. With the exception of my time at Syracuse and in the Army, I spent my entire life in Roxbury, so this means so much." He continued, "Please congratulate the other honorees," and he went on to brag about each of your accomplishments. Be sure to mention Jim Fiorello. He was my close friend and mentor for many years. And with a laugh, he joked, "Tell him that I can still probably bench press more than he can." He got serious for a moment, and he talked about his pride in growing up in Kenville. Before his time, no one from Kenville or any other town outside of Succothsona played Roxbury athletics. He was an outsider, and he had to work that much harder to break in. Hailing from Wharton, Coach Schiffner, another outsider, gave him a shot to play. He got lucky, he said. Once he broke through, many others would follow, including several other of the honorees here this evening. Not many of us knew Bob Morgan as a player. We know him as a teacher, a coach, a friend, a grandfather, a brother, and dad. I asked him if he were different, if he was a different man when playing each of these roles. And he paused and he answered, "Nah, who I am is who I am." Dad's motto was simple: work hard, lift weights, be dedicated and smart, don't make mistakes, and put your best effort out there. That's what he was taught, and that's what he hoped to pass along. Who I am today is very much a reflection of my dad and all that he taught me. He instilled in me a passion for competition, taught me how to be tough, and how to handle winning and losing gracefully. He made me believe I could achieve anything I wanted as long as I dedicated myself to it fully. He showed me how to think strategically and how to bring out the best performance in others, which would serve both Michael and me well in our chosen professions. I owe so much to my dad. I feel honored that through this experience of accepting this award, I've come to know him a little more deeply, and I hope you have too. Just a couple of nights ago, after he had a couple of beers, I asked him if he ever thought about the old days. He reluctantly admitted, "On Sunday mornings in the summer, I illegally hit golf balls on the old Roosevelt Field where I played football, and I feel home." I have little doubt that on those hazy summer mornings, he could still feel the roar of the crowds, see the great players that came before him who shaped his life, and those who would follow, wearing the blue and gold, and upholding the legacy of Roxbury Gales athletics, of which he was so proud to be a part. Thank you.